there, I'm author Sarah A. Chrisman, and today I'm going to talk to you about chickens. Mwah.
In a couple of earlier videos, I talked about how important meat pigeons were in people's everyday diets throughout history, and I also discussed the history of turkeys as feast birds. Today I'm going to give some screen time to the birds which have been mankind's most important egg layers throughout our history. Chickens! No one knows exactly when chickens were first domesticated because light little bird bones tend to get eaten, if not by the humans that ate the rest of the bird, then by the animals which clean up after us. Or the bones are otherwise destroyed by time. The bird bones that do make it into the archaeological record can be hard to date because they're often jumbled around by rodents and other small scavengers. We do know that roosters appear in the artwork of ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. The ancestral chicken was the red jungle fowl of South Asia, and obviously they took some time to cross the breadth of the Eurasian landmass. But the further back one goes in human history, the hazier the record becomes. Suffice it to say, though, chickens and their ancestors have been scratching around human habitations for a very long time. Domestication is always a symbiotic relationship of give and take. The wolves, which later became dogs, were originally after scraps from human middens, and the wild ancestors of house cats were attracted by mice living off of stored grain. Early proto-chickens probably got in on the domestication game because they wanted the insects which thrive on cultivated crops. Lots of birds eat insects, but these proto-chickens stood out because they laid impressively large eggs relative to their own size. To this day, people around the world still eat far more chicken eggs than any other bird eggs, and for much of human history, chickens were more valuable for their large eggs than for their meat. At least, laying hens were. Hens past laying age and surplus roosters have always been fair game for the supper table. At the end of the 19th century, innovations in hatching techniques led to a major shift in the poultry industry and in people's eating habits. In most species of birds, one or both parents sit on the eggs until they hatch. Then, after hatching, the parents bring food to their helpless young chicks and carefully feed them until they're ready to leave the nest. The chicks of a few exceptional species hatch out independent and self-sufficient enough to feed themselves right away, and chickens are one of these. Incidentally, this is part of why chickens produce such large eggs. Whereas most birds hatch out naked and often blind, a chicken egg provides enough space and nutrition to produce a downy chick who can run around and identify both food and danger from day one. There's no margin in artificially incubating pigeon eggs since the squabs need so much care when they hatch. It's cheaper and easier to let pigeon parents do their job than to get humans involved. Chickens are a different story, though. The idea of artificially incubating eggs isn't new by any stretch of the imagination. The ancient Egyptians and Chinese were already using artificial means to hatch chicken, goose, and duck eggs as early as the 4th century BC. The exact methodologies of these ancient civilizations were carefully guarded secrets, but we do know that the Egyptian method involved large straw fires and/or covering the eggs with rotting camel dung. Europe, where camel dung was in short supply, tried to hatch artificially incubated chicken eggs for centuries, but they never had much luck with it on any sort of large scale until the late 19th century. In the late 1800s, incubators that ran on steam, kerosene, or electricity all came out on the market around similar times, and they fit right in with the rising model of ever bigger and more productive farms. Today, farms are bigger and more industrial than ever, but chicken raising on a small personal scale remains appealing to many people for a number of reasons. For one thing, raising your own birds is a way to be absolutely certain that it's being done humanely and that their feed is up to your own high standards. My own chickens have regular access to a commercial feed for laying hens, and this is supplemented by scratch grains, cracked corn, and scraps from our table. I also give them all the non-toxic weeds I pull from our yard. They're my old-fashioned weed eaters. A word to the wise, though, if you have chickens of your own. Don't give them anything in the garlic family, and don't let them steal your cat's food. Neither of these will hurt the chickens, but they'll affect the flavor of the eggs. Garlic eggs are fine for omelets, but not so much for cakes. And most cat foods, in my experience, lead to a strong fishy flavor in the eggs, if the chickens eat too much of it. There are other quirky things that can happen with eggs that are always good for a laugh. Just like human females sometimes experience irregular periods at the start and end of our childbearing years, hens can have egg bloopers when they're quite young and when they start to lose their fertility. Sometimes they'll lay empty shells with no eggs inside, and sometimes they'll lay funny eggs with no shells.
So here we have a rather interesting thing that chickens do sometimes when they're first starting to lay eggs. This is... someone has produced an egg without a shell. It's got the sort of membrane on it that's usually inside of a shell. And so it's like a little water balloon. But it doesn't actually have the proper shell. It's just this sort of little water balloon egg with the membrane but no shell. They do that sometimes when they're just learning. They're getting plenty of calcium. There's calcium in their food, and we give them extra calcium if they want it, just tossed about. They're not eating the extra calcium, so that tells us they're getting plenty. They're just practicing, and they just haven't quite gotten the hang of this yet. Some of them have also produced shells with no eggs in them. But yeah, just the interesting little practice things that chickens do. So, I've never seen this before. I've seen chickens lay eggs without shells. I've seen them lay shells without eggs. I have never before seen a chicken lay a perfectly formed little mini egg. Now, just for the sake of comparison, this is a normal egg. And this is a Cadbury's chocolate mini egg. Maybe our chickens are auditioning for Cadbury. I just wish they would lay them as chocolate.
Bloopers aside, it's hard to beat homegrown eggs for flavor and nutrition, and anyone who's tried them has a hard time going back to factory-produced ones. Whether you look on chickens as pets, small livestock, or somewhere in between, there's no denying. These critters earn their keep.
Thank you for watching today. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a nice thumbs up, and remember to tell your friends about my books. Happy reading!
I'm going to hide away on a little farm in Iowa. I'm going to ride away on the road that leads to yesterday.